Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive into leadership.
Ooh, leadership.
You know how to lead when you're not in charge.
That's an interesting one.
So we're going to be talking about Clay Scroggins' book, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge.
I'm excited.
And we're even going to be looking a little bit at the acknowledgments section.
Yes.
Which is fun because we get to see these ideas play out in a real organization.
Absolutely.
So have you ever seen those grocery carts that look like cars?
Oh, yeah.
That kids sit in and they're like gripping the steering wheel.
Totally.
And you're like, oh, you think you're really driving?
Right.
But that wheel does nothing.
It doesn't do anything.
Scroggins uses that analogy to talk about how a lot of times we view leadership that we need a certain title, position to really make a difference.
Right.
But what he emphasizes is that real change.
Yeah.
The kind that ripples through an organization comes from
influence.
Influence, not authority. So it's not about the hierarchy necessarily.
People.
It's about those levers of power
that exist.
At all levels. So, so if we're thinking about like mid-level managers, they may not have authority over their peers or even their superiors.
Right.
But they can influence upward, downward, and laterally with all these people.
And that's really where change happens.
That's where the change happens.
Right.
And Scroggins even talks about how he felt stuck in his role early on.
Interesting.
Thinking that to really lead, he needed to be promoted. He needed that title. And he had a great conversation with his boss that I think is relatable for anybody who has felt limited by their job title, their role. And that is... He realized that it isn't the organization holding him back.
It was his mindset.
It was his own mindset that is powerful.
Totally.
And so he talks about before you can lead others, you have to lead yourself.
Right.
And that starts with understanding your own identity.
Yeah.
And he uses
a good analogy?
He uses the analogy of Jason Bourne.
Ooh, I love Jason Bourne.
From the Bourne Identity, discovering that safe deposit box.
Right.
Full of passports.
I remember that.
Like, which one is me?
Right.
Like, which version am I?
Yeah.
And he breaks down identity into
4 things.
4 things.
What are they?
Your past.
Okay, your past.
Your people.
Your people.
Personality.
And your priorities.
Okay.
So, let's start in the past.
How has your history shaped you?
Shaped you.
Maybe you had a mentor that really instilled in you a strong work ethic.
Right.
Or maybe you had a setback. That taught you resilience. All of those experiences,
both good and bad,
have contributed to who you are today.
Yeah, they shape us.
Right.
Chad.
And then the people you surround yourself with.
The people around you.
Those relationships have such a powerful influence on our values and beliefs.
And behavior.
And our behaviors.
Yeah.
So think about those close colleagues or mentors or even friends that, you know,
who inspire you,
who
challenge you
in a positive way.
Absolutely. And then there's personality,
that unique mix of strengths, weaknesses,
and quirks right,
that make up your personality. Right. You know, some of us are extroverts.
That's true.
We thrive
in those groups.
In those group settings. Others
are more introverted.
And prefer to work independently.
Right.
So understanding those tendencies can be really helpful for your leadership style.
And finally,
priorities.
What are the guiding principles that shape our decisions
and actions?
And our actions.
Yeah.
What matters most to you?
What matters most?
What do you value?
Your values.
And how do those values
influence
your leadership approach?
Yeah. Scroggins, being a pastor, brings in that faith perspective.
Okay.
Really emphasizing the importance of aligning your priorities with your spiritual beliefs. It's about grounding your identity in being created in God's image and loved unconditionally.
And so, you know, until
you have that clear sense of self,
right,
you can't truly lead effectively.
And he talks about the dangers of identity distortions.
Oh, okay. What are those?
You know, becoming an authoritarian leader who micromanages and controls everything.
Right.
or a ladder climber who's focused only on personal gain, or a reluctant leader who just kind of shies away from any responsibility.
So these distortions come from...
Yeah, they often stem from...
an unclear sense of self.
Yeah, that lack of inner work.
And that leads to...
which leads to...
unhealthy leadership patterns.
Right.
So it's about doing that inner work.
Absolutely, to understand who you are. At your core.
At your core.
So you can lead from a place...
lead authentically.
...of authenticity and integrity.
Yes.
And then he tackles the topic.
Yeah, he moves on to...
of ambition.
Ambition.
You know, acknowledging that drive that burns within a lot of us.
Yeah.
But cautioning against letting it run wild.
Yeah.
So it's that difference between...
right.
healthy ambition.
Healthy ambition, which is that desire to make a positive impact
on the world.
On the world.
Yeah.
Versus
like that distorted form.
Distorted form.
Which is that selfish pursuit.
Yeah.
Of power.
And recognition.
A recognition.
And recognition.
I think we all know those types.
Right. Who are constantly
trying to one-up each other.
Trying to one-up everybody.
Yeah.
And they're more concerned with their own
advancement
than the well-being of the team.
Yeah.
And Scroggins offers a really thought-provoking perspective on ambition.
Yeah, what is it?
He says that ambition doesn't magically appear when you're in charge.
Not about a title.
It's already present.
Already there.
It's already present in us.
Yeah.
And we must learn to channel it effectively. Channel it.
Regardless of our position. It's not waiting for a promotion or a fancy title.
Right.
To start leading.
It's about recognizing.
It's about recognizing.
Those opportunities. To influence and make a difference.
Right.
That exist at every level.
Absolutely. And
he even traces this back.
To
the creation mandate in Genesis 1.28.
Oh, wow.
Where, God instructs humanity to be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth, and subdue it. And he sees that subdue it.
Interesting.
Not as dominance over nature, but as a call to leadership. And that drive to cultivate and create.
I like that.
And he even uses this interesting comparison to the word kibosh.
Okay.
Which, not etymologically linked,
right,
but shares a similar sound to the Hebrew word for subdue.
Interesting.
And so, we see these two extremes when it comes to ambition.
What are they?
Like, on one hand, you have those who completely stifle it.
Right.
Playing it safe.
Yeah.
And never taking risks.
And
it's like putting the kibosh.
On their own potential.
Exactly.
But then you have those.
Their
ambition runs wild. And destructive. Like Crazy Joe Davola in Seinfeld.
I love that episode.
Threatening to put the kibosh on Jerry.
Put the kibosh on Jerry.
But he argues...
the middle path.
The middle path.
A balanced approach.
Right.
Where we harness ambition.
Harness it.
For good.
Without letting it become...
without a destructive force.
Becoming destructive. So it's like...
finding that sweet spot.
Yeah,
between
passivity
and aggression. Where you're driven. But not ruthless. Ambitious, but not cutthroat. And a crucial part. Of finding that balance is... recognizing the importance of self-leadership. And he emphasizes that no one is going to force you to grow as a leader. You have to take ownership. Be intentional.
About your development.
It's like somebody wanting a deep dive through the Old Testament, but never bothering to read it themselves.
But actually read it.
You can't be led.
Right, you can't be led further than you're willing to lead yourself. And so he introduces this concept. Called the Lead Me Plan.
Which is...
a personalized development plan.
Yeah.
Focus on...
leading yourself well.
Okay.
So what does a Lead Me Plan look like in practice? Is there a
template we can follow?
A template, or is it just,
It's less about a rigid template and more about recognizing that this isn't a spectator sport. It requires action and intentionality.
All right.
So Scroggins outlines 3 key principles monitoring your heart.
Okay.
Monitoring your behavior.
What does that mean?
And making a plan.
What does it mean to monitor your heart?
So it's about
a pulse?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's about checking your motives and feelings.
Okay.
Regularly asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Okay.
Am I driven by a desire to serve others or by selfish ambition?
So it's that internal
self-reflection.
Yeah, gut check.
That gut
to make sure.
You
know, your actions are aligned.
Aligned with your values.
Your values.
Yeah.
And it's not a one-time thing.
A one-time exercise.
It's ongoing.
Right. It's constant.
Constant self-awareness.
For those things, pride, envy, resentment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
those things that can
derail your leadership.
Yeah. And then the second principle is monitoring your behavior. So I imagine this is about being mindful of how your actions impact others.
Absolutely.
Right? Seeking feedback.
Feedback from trusted
colleagues or mentors.
Yeah, he even shares his experience of doing a 360-degree feedback survey with coworkers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That takes courage.
It does. But he says...
people, to tell you what you could be doing better.
The insights were invaluable.
Even if it's not fun to hear.
Yeah. You know, it's about being open to...
learning and improving. Right. Even if the feedback...
always glowing. It's not always glowing.
And finally...
making a plan.
Which seems pretty straightforward.
Right, but what does that involve?
What does it actually involve?
It's about translating that self-awareness into concrete action.
Okay.
Creating that lead me plan that outlines your goals, objectives, and strategies for growth. So it's not just about having a vague desire.
Right.
It's about taking action. Putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
And crafting a roadmap.
It's that intentional effort.
Commitment to personal growth. Even when it's challenging. And he acknowledges that different personalities might approach this differently.
Of course. You know, for some people it might be joining a book club. Or finding a mentor. And others might benefit from a more structured approach. Like hiring a coach. It's like, you know, it's like finding
the workout.
Yeah.
That really works for you.
What works for you.
You know, some people thrive in group classes. Other people are like...
Other people want to go solo.
I'm going solo.
Right.
So it's about finding what motivates and inspires you.
What motivates you to keep growing. Yeah.
So then... he also explores
those times when, despite your best efforts,
to
lead from within, the situation just isn't working.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got a truly toxic boss.
A culture.
This
culture is so dysfunctional that it's impossible to thrive.
And he acknowledges that
leaving a job is a big decision.
It is.
But he offers some guidelines.
He does.
For discerning
when it might be the best option.
It might be the best option. It's like having a
pre-vacation checklist.
A vacation checklist.
Before you walk out the door.
He
encourages a thorough self-assessment
to make sure
leaving for the right reasons.
Are the right reasons.
So he suggests 3 things to consider.
What are they?
You know, drop unrealistic expectations of your boss. Okay. Go all in.
With your commitment.
With your current role.
To your current role.
Okay.
And try to see the world.
Through
your boss's eyes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's dive into those a bit. You know, first, dropping the expectations. What does that entail?
What does that mean?
It's about remembering that your boss is human.
Okay.
Not a superhero.
Okay.
They have their own flaws, limitations, and maybe even a leadership style.
That clashes with yours.
So
it's about that shift in perspective. Releasing the burden.
Yeah.
Of those unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. That can lead to a lot of disappointment and resentment. that can lead to a lot of disappointment and resentment.
Right.
And
it's important to remember.
It's important to remember that
you are ultimately responsible.
Okay.
For your own.
It's your own
professional development.
Professional development.
Don't wait for your boss.
Don't wait for your boss.
To hand you opportunities.
To hand you opportunities.
To create them.
Create them yourself.
Yeah.
And the second one.
The second one.
Is going all in.
Go all in.
So what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
In a situation where.
When you're
thinking about leaving?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, it's about giving your best effort.
Okay.
Even if.
It's your dream job.
It's not your dream job.
It's
showing up with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And dedication.
Dedication.
Even if you're planning to move on.
Right.
Eventually. So it's a test.
It's a test.
If you go all in.
If you're going all in and you're still miserable.
That
might be a sign that.
Might be a sign.
It's time to move on.
And the third one.
The third one is try to see the world through your boss's eyes.
Try to see the world through your boss's eyes.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be.
I know it can be.
Helpful.
Tough.
But
especially if you're feeling.
Really tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you're feeling frustrated.
Or misunderstood.
But it's about cultivating that empathy. Trying to understand
your boss's
perspective.
Their motivation.
Maybe
they're operating.
Under constraints you're not aware of.
Under constraints.
No. Or maybe their leadership.
Their leadership style.
Is
just different from yours.
Yeah. Is just different from yours.
And that's okay.
So it's about
that
acceptance,
diversity and leadership.
In the leadership approaches.
Yeah. And now let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
And talk about a concept.
All right.
That Scroggins calls cultivating a panoptic view.
Panoptic.
Like
a panoramic.
A panoramic photo.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? In the context of leadership. It's about
seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Connecting your individual work.
Right. Even those seemingly mundane tasks to the overall goals. Of the organization.
So
it's like zooming out.
From a
close-up.
To a wide-angle lens. So
you understand how.
Your piece of the puzzle.
Fits
into the larger whole.
Yeah. And when you see that connection.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly motivating.
Because it gives your work.
It's a sense of purpose.
And meaning. He uses the example of.
Yeah, he talks about
the iPhone 4.
The iPhone 4
panoramic photo feature.
Which
revolutionized
how people
captured images. He encourages us to adopt that kind of
panoramic lens.
From
our work.
For our work. To see beyond your immediate tasks.
Beyond those immediate tasks.
Yeah.
And understand that broader impact. Of our efforts.
It's about shifting that perspective.
From what am I doing?
Host speaker. To what are we achieving together?
Okay, so how do we develop this panoptic view?
So the book argues.
Is it just something we're born with?
It's a skill that can be developed.
Okay.
He introduces the panoptic pyramid as a visual tool that can help you align your work with a greater purpose.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Yeah.
What is...
So it starts...
The panoptic pyramid.
With a solid foundation.
Okay.
Which is your trust in something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
And your hope for the future.
So it's about finding that sense of grounding.
Yeah, grounds.
And that belief that your work is part of something. Meaningful and lasting. And for Scroggins. That foundation is rooted in his faith.
But even if...
You don't have to share his religious...
Don't share his beliefs.
Right.
The idea is to find...
that source of inspiration and hope.
Yeah.
That gives your work... significance. Okay.
So
that's the next level.
Next level is
the pyramid.
Your calling and your purpose.
So it's understanding why you do what you do.
How your unique skills and talents
contribute
to the overall mission.
To the overall mission.
Of the organization.
Of the organization. So it's about finding
that alignment between your personal passions.
Alignment between your personal passions and the work that you do.
And the work you do.
To find that sweet spot.
Where
you feel both.
Where you feel fulfilled.
And effective.
Right.
And then at the top of the pyramid is your role and responsibilities.
Okay.
So
it's what?
Executing those tasks. With excellence. Knowing that.
Even
seemingly small contributions.
Can have a big impact.
On the overall success of the team.
So it's that attention to detail. That commitment to quality. Even when you're not.
Even when the spotlight.
You're not in the spotlight.
Right.
And to illustrate
the power
of a panoptic view.
This with the story.
Yeah, even in the most challenging circumstances.
Yeah.
He shares the inspiring story.
Paul in
prison.
That doesn't sound very inspiring.
But
okay.
Being chained and facing an uncertain future.
Okay.
Paul maintained an incredibly positive outlook.
Okay.
Trusting in God's plan.
Okay.
And focusing on the opportunities ahead. He even saw his guard.
He shifted his perspective.
As metaphorically chained to him.
Okay.
Highlighting that.
So even in a situation.
That
seemed limiting.
He
saw it.
He saw
your potential.
For influence and impact.
Right. And that brings us another crucial element.
To another.
Of leading when you're not in charge.
Crucial.
The power of critical thinking.
Element of leading when you're not in charge. Okay, so we're talking about staying positive.
Yeah.
Embracing your current role.
Mm-hmm.
But also thinking critically?
Yeah.
This seems a bit...
It's about finding that balance.
Counterintuitive.
Between optimism and realism.
Okay.
Recognizing...
That positivity alone.
How do we distinguish between...
Can be blinding.
Thinking critically.
If not coupled with a healthy dose of critical analysis.
And just being critical?
Right.
You know, that constant complaining.
That's not the motivation.
That negativity.
Behind your analysis.
Right.
Nobody wants to be around. Are you genuinely seeking to understand a situation?
Right.
To identify problems and propose solutions?
It's about.
Or are you just looking for flaws and pointing fingers?
Being solution-oriented.
Right. It's much more inspiring.
How to make things better.
To be around people.
Rather than just dwelling on.
Solution-oriented.
What's wrong?
Right. And so
he highlights 3 key characteristics.
Of critical thinkers. Observation.
Inaction. And anticipation.
So
let's start with observation.
Okay.
What does it mean to be
a good observer?
A good observer.
In this context.
It's about paying attention to detail.
Paying attention to the details. Noticing patterns.
Patterns and anomalies.
That others might miss.
It's
about being present.
Engaged. And engaged.
In your surroundings.
Actively
seeking information.
Right.
Rather than just passively.
Not passive.
Absorbing whatever comes your way. So it's about that mindful awareness. That curiosity. To understand how things work. And why things happen.
How and why.
The way they do.
Things happen. And he uses a fascinating example.
This really interesting example.
From the world of sports.
Okay.
ESPN commentator.
Okay.
Colin Cowherd.
Observation.
I love Colin Cowherd.
That many successful NFL quarterbacks come from smaller colleges.
Interesting.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
So Cowherd suggests that those quarterbacks likely developed critical thinking skills by facing tougher challenges.
Early on.
So like that saying,
had to be
Booth sees
more resourceful, more adaptable,
a skillful sailor,
mentally agile, to succeed in a less competitive environment.
Right. So crucible for developing mental toughness.
That's like that saying, smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. Problem-solving abilities.
Exactly.
And then
the next characteristic of critical thinkers
is connection. So seeing the relationships between seemingly disparate things.
Seeing those relationships.
Right. Recognizing patterns, seemingly different things.
Making inferences.
It's like those detective shows.
based on those connections.
Where they pin up photos and notes on a big board.
It's like those detective shows where they pin up photos and notes on a big board.
Trying to find the links?
Trying to find the links.
Between the clues.
And
the suspects.
And the suspects. So
it's about thinking systematically and understanding how different parts of a system interact and influence each other.
Of a system.
Interact.
And finally,
anticipation.
There's anticipation.
Which is
thinking ahead.
Thinking ahead.
Predicting potential problems. And opportunities.
And opportunities based on
your observation.
And
your connections.
So it's about being proactive.
Rather than reactive. Anticipating challenges.
Anticipating those challenges.
Before they arise.
And
planning accordingly.
And so he offers 4 subtle shifts.
To help you cultivate. Critical thinking mindset. Okay. I'm ready to hear those shifts.
So the first shift.
Give me all
is to think like an owner.
Okay.
Not an employee.
I'm a little skeptical about this one.
Okay.
Does this mean...
Like,
I have to pretend...
Pretending you own the company.
That I own the company. Even if I'm just a cog in the machine.
You're a cog in the machine.
Right.
Not exactly.
Okay.
It's more about adopting a sense...
So does it really mean?
Responsibility and ownership.
Okay.
For the success of the organization as a whole.
Even if your role feels small.
My role feels small.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If you were working for your dad...
Okay.
Would you slack off or cut corners?
Probably not.
Especially
if I was hoping to inherit the business one day.
If you were hoping to inherit the business one day.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
So it's about caring. About the outcomes. Not just going through the motions. Well, doing the bare minimum.
Right. So it's about feeling
invested. In the mission of the company. And seeing your work. As a vital contribution. Even if it's behind the scenes.
And the second shift?
The second shift is to schedule time to think critically.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one.
Which can be tough.
Really resonates with me. It's so easy. To get caught up.
In
the daily grind.
And never have a moment to
step back and reflect.
So
you have to be intentional about.
You have to be intentional about creating space in your schedule.
Right.
And
he even suggests
thinking. For analyzing, for brainstorming solutions.
Treating thinking time.
Right. Like
the book even suggests.
An important meeting.
Yeah.
Blocking it off on your calendar.
Treating thinking time like an important meeting.
I love that.
Right.
Because if it's not on the calendar.
Yeah, it's
not happening.
Scheduled, it's not happening.
Right.
And think about it.
And
Yeah.
I think, haven't you noticed
yeah.
that your best ideas often come when you're
to you.
Not actively trying to think. Like in the shower. Or on a walk.
Or during a walk. Right. It's like our minds finally have that space to wander and make unexpected connections.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so crucial.
And that's why
to be more intentional.
So crucial. To be more intentional about creating those pockets of mental space. In your day. And then the third shift.
The third shift
is about focusing on solutions, not just problems.
Okay.
Right.
That seems so simple.
Yeah.
But why is it so hard?
It does.
Why is it so hard?
Some people. Well, I think it's easier to criticize than to create.
It's easier to criticize than to create.
It takes effort.
Effort and creativity.
Yeah, and creativity.
Come up
with solutions.
Whereas pointing out flaws can be pretty easy. Especially if you're feeling frustrated or cynical.
Right. You're feeling frustrated or cynical.
Nobody wants to work with a constant complainer.
Right. It's much more inspiring.
To
be around people. Who are solution-oriented. People.
Who see challenges.
And challenges as opportunities.
Opportunities for growth and improvement.
Right. And then the next shift that he mentions.
Okay.
Is
that shift?
To stay in the balcony.
I'm curious about this one.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Think of it.
Well, think of it. Like watching a play from the balcony.
And watching a play from the balcony.
You have that.
You can see the entire stage, the interactions between the characters, the unfolding of the plot, without getting caught up.
Without getting caught up.
The emotional drama down below.
Emotional drama. So it's about creating that mental
and emotional distance.
And emotional distance.
You can see the bigger picture.
From a situation.
And more clearly.
So you can see the bigger picture more clearly.
And he emphasizes.
He talks about how when our emotions are running high.
When our emotions are running high.
It's harder to think clearly and make
and make sound decisions. Yeah. Our judgment gets clouded.
Judgment?
And we're more likely
it's clouded.
To react impulsively in ways we later regret. Right. Impulsively.
Yeah.
In ways we later regret.
It's like that saying.
Don't
make any permanent decisions.
Don't make it as permanent.
While you're feeling temporary emotions.
Decisions.
When you're feeling temporary emotions.
So true.
So true.
And now
let's move on.
To a topic. That can be really challenging. Especially in a work environment. The art of challenging up.
In a work environment.
Yeah. So this means raising concerns.
Meaning.
Or proposing changes.
Raising concerns.
Or to those in authority.
Proposing changes.
Right.
To those in authority.
Yeah.
I can definitely see why that would be.
It takes courage.
Intimidating.
To speak up.
Especially
people who are used to.
The way things have always been done.
Following directions.
And not rocking the boat.
So challenging up effectively. Is a crucial skill.
Effectively is a crucial skill who wants to make.
Anybody who wants to.
A real difference.
Make a difference.
Regardless of their position.
So
it's about recognizing.
That
even those in authority. Don't always have all the answers.
Sometimes fresh perspectives and new ideas. Are essential to drive progress. Absolutely.
And
he even delves into.
He even talks about like a biological
reason.
Why people resist change.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
So research has shown.
What does biology have to do with this?
That our brains are actually wired to prefer the familiar and the predictable.
So we're just
change by its nature. Introduces uncertainty and disruption.
Resist change.
And that can trigger.
It's not just about people being
feelings of
anxiety and stress.
Close-minded.
Right.
There's an actual physiological reason.
It's not just about people.
For this aversion to change.
Being stubborn or close-minded.
Okay.
There's an actual physiological reason for that aversion to change.
How do we challenge up effectively then?
The book encourages us to be mindful of this tendency, both in ourselves and in others, and to approach those challenging conversations.
What are some?
With a lot of empathy and understanding.
Practical strategies for challenging up effectively. Give me the goods.
The book emphasizes the importance of building strong relationships. With those in authority.
It's about creating a foundation of trust and mutual respect.
With those in authority. So it's about building that.
They're more likely to be receptive
relational
feedback, even if they don't initially agree with you.
You're not coming in as an adversary.
You're not coming across.
But as somebody who
wants to and help the team succeed.
Who genuinely wants to contribute and help the team succeed.
And the book also talks about choosing to trust your boss.
The importance of choosing to trust your boss.
Can be really tough.
Even if they've made decisions that you don't fully understand.
A better solution.
Or agree with. You know? It can be really tough.
A more effective approach.
Especially if you feel like you have a better solution.
He argues, or a more effective approach.
That assuming the best intentions
can really
impact. The best intentions can have a profound impact on your approach.
That your boss might have information.
It's about acknowledging your boss might have information you don't.
Right.
Or be operating under constraints that you're not aware of.
You're operating under constraints that you're not aware of.
Right.
It's about giving them.
It's about giving them
the benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt.
So it's that
shift in perspective.
Choosing to believe.
Choosing to believe that they're not
intentionally making bad decisions.
But are doing the best they can.
With information.
Yeah. And that shift in mindset.
This shift in mindset
can often lead to
a more productive
and less adversarial conversation. Right.
He also highlights
the importance of remembering.
That
you don't have all the information.
Why is this so important? Which, especially when you're challenging,
is so important.
Someone in a position of authority.
Especially when you're challenging someone in a position of authority.
I think it's about
cultivating
humility,
which is such an
it's essential
quality
for any leader,
regardless of their position.
It's recognizing
your perspective is limited.
Perspective is limited,
and there might be factors at play.
There's factors at play that you're simply not aware of.
And he uses
to illustrate this brilliant quote from anthropologist. Ashley Montague. He said, humans are the only creatures who are able to behave irrationally.
Humans are the only creatures
in the name of reason
who are able to behave irrationally in the name of reason.
Wow. Right.
That's profound.
What does that mean to you?
It highlights the fact.
I think what it means to me is that
what
might seem
perfectly rational
and logical.
Rational and logical to you. To me,
yeah.
Based on my experiences and knowledge, might seem completely rational to somebody else.
To someone else.
Based on their
experiences and knowledge.
Yeah. So it's a reminder
that
we all have biases.
We all have biases and blind spots.
And he talks about the importance of controlling our emotions.
Importance of controlling your emotions.
Which I think we can all relate to.
Especially
in those high stakes conversations.
It's so easy to get caught up.
So easy.
In the heat of the moment.
Especially get the pot up.
And let our emotions
in the heat of the moment.
Get the best of us.
And let our emotions get the best of us.
We're passionate about something. People feel like we're not being heard.
It's like trying to remember someone's name.
It's like when you're drawing a blank to remember someone's name. And you're drawing a blank.
You're nervous. You know the name is in there somewhere.
You're nervous.
Your brain just won't cooperate.
Is in there somewhere.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
But your brain just won't cooperate.
But what does that have to do with challenging?
But it's a great example of how emotions can literally impair our cognitive abilities.
Okay.
So when we're feeling anxious or stressed,
our emotional state can...
Our brains are focused on processing those emotions.
Hijack our brains.
And that can hinder...
And make it hard.
Our memory, our judgment.
To think clearly.
And even our ability to communicate effectively.
Making sound decisions.
Okay, it's like... So in those...
conversations...
Where you're...
Challenging up.
Making it harder.
It's even more important
to think clearly,
to be mindful,
to make sound decisions
of your emotional state.
Right. And if you feel yourself getting flustered or defensive, it's helpful to take a few deep breaths. Or even ask for a break to collect your thoughts. And finally, the book offers a piece of advice
he gives us
that might seem counterintuitive.
Another tip.
Be willing.
Okay, what is it?
To walk away with a no.
Wait.
Right? You're saying always
to give up.
Get your way.
Go.
And that's okay.
Accept.
So if you go into every conversation with the expectation that you're going to convince everyone,
you might not always get your way.
And get exactly what you want.
And that's okay.
You're setting yourself up.
You've done.
For a lot of disappointment.
Your best.
And potentially damaging relationships along the way.
To present your case.
Right.
But ultimately that
it's about detaching yourself from the outcome.
Might not be in your hands.
Recognizing that you've done your best to present your case.
Right.
But ultimately the decision might not be in your hands. And even if you get a no,
Even if you...
It doesn't mean
your efforts were wasted. It doesn't mean your efforts were wasted.
You've planted a seed.
You've planted a seed.
Shared your perspective.
Shared your perspective.
And maybe even shifted the conversation in a positive direction.
It's about trusting the process and recognizing.
It's about trusting the process.
That change often takes
recognizing that change.
And persistence.
Often takes time and persistence.
And
speaking of the process of challenging up.
Breaks this down.
Yeah, the book goes deeper
into the specific
strategies.
Challenging up.
Into 4 essential ingredients.
Right.
The relationship, the information, the approach, and the ask.
Okay, so we've already talked about...
So the importance
we've already touched
of the importance of the relationship.
Reiterating that people...
But it's worth reiterating.
...are much more receptive to feedback.
That people are much more receptive to feedback.
Simple feedback.
Even critical feedback.
From someone they trust and respect.
They trust and respect.
It's about...
So it's about building...
those bridges...
of goodwill.
Of goodwill.
So they know.
So they know you're coming...
from a place of genuine concern.
Of genuine concern.
Not just trying to undermine their authority.
Their authority or score points.
Score points.
And information.
It's also crucial.
You can't just rely on...
crucial.
Opinions or vague feeling. You can't just rely on opinions.
You have to do your research.
And vague feeling.
Vague feelings.
The relevant data.
Right. You have to be prepared.
Do your research. Gather the data.
To present.
And be prepared to present.
A well-informed.
A compelling argument.
And compelling argument.
It's about credibility.
Right.
If you're going to
challenge the way things are done.
If you need
to demonstrate
that
you've thought things through.
The way things are done.
You need to demonstrate.
Not just reacting emotionally.
You've thought things through. And you're not just reacting emotionally.
There's the approach.
And then there's this approach.
The way you present.
The way you present, you're a challenge. Challenge. Right. The words you choose.
Right.
The words you choose. You can have a brilliant idea. A brilliant idea.
It can get lost if you deliver it.
If you deliver it.
In a way that's...
disrespectful. That's aggressive.
Or emotionally charged.
Disrespectful or emotionally charged.
So it's about being mindful.
It's about being mindful.
Of your communication style.
Of your communication style.
And making sure...
and ensuring...
that your message...
your message is being received.
Being received.
As intended.
And he really emphasizes... leading with curiosity.
The book really emphasizes
humility and respect. So instead of saying, you're doing this wrong.
Humility and respect.
So instead of
saying, could we explore...
this is the way we should do it.
Some alternative options.
You could ask.
Right.
I'm curious about why we've always done it this way.
So it's about framing your challenge. Yep. What are the benefits of this approach?
In a way that...
and are there any potential drawbacks?
Invites...
dialogue and exploration, not judgment or accusation.
This is about framing your challenge
in a way that
invites
your proposed change.
Dialogue and exploration, not judgment or accusation.
The problem,
and it's important to
the current situation,
highlight the potential benefits of your proposed change.
Focusing on those positive outcomes.
Not just the problems with the current situation.
Painting that picture of a better future that everyone can get excited about.
It's about focusing on the positive outcomes.
Right.
Painting that picture of a better future.
Let's shift gears a bit.
That everyone can get excited about. And
talk about another aspect.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about leading when you're not in charge.
Another aspect of it.
The is
leading when you're not in charge.
The way you treat people on your way up.
Right.
You know,
the way you treat
the book offers this powerful reminder.
On your way up is a reflection of how you'll treat them.
The way you treat people on your way up,
once you're at the top,
is a reflection of how you'll treat them once you're at the top.
Right.
You know, I've definitely seen those people who are ruthless.
I've definitely seen
those people
in their climb to the top.
Who are, you wonder why, ruthless and cutthroat.
Nobody trusts them.
In their climb to the top.
Or respects them.
And then
once they get there,
they wonder why nobody trusts or respects them.
It's a classic pattern.
Once they get there.
It's a classic.
It really emphasizes cultivating a leadership style that's marked by respect.
Really emphasizes
empathy and a genuine desire.
A leadership style.
To empower others.
That's marked by respect.
Regardless of their position.
Empathy and a genuine desire.
It's not about power or control.
To empower others.
It's about
regardless of their position.
Service and influence.
Right.
And those qualities are essential, whether you're not
about
CEO or
power or control.
Right.
It's about service and influence.
And that brings us.
And those qualities are essential, whether.
But another important point,
which is creating
a work environment.
And that brings us to another
fair point,
which is enjoy their work.
It seems so obvious.
A work environment where people
feel valued and enjoy their work. It seems so obvious.
But why do so many workplaces struggle with this?
I think a lot of companies get so caught up in the bottom line, prioritizing profits and efficiency over the well-being of their employees.
Yeah.
They create
They're so caught up.
Rewarded competition.
The bottom line, prioritizing profits and efficiency.
Feel stressed, undervalued, and ultimately
the well-being of their employees.
And
they create cultures.
He uses this great analogy. He says, a rising tide lifts all boats.
And competition, about the importance of creating a culture.
Feel stressed, undervalued, and ultimately
where everybody benefits from each other's achievements, And then people feel like
his great analogy.
Really heart of something.
He says a rising tide lifts all boats.
Than themselves.
And he's talking about.
It's about that sense of.
The importance of creating
community and collaborative culture,
shared success.
So people feel like their contributions are valued, and they're not just cogs in a machine.
Everybody
benefits from each other.
He uses this powerful quote from Proverbs. Achievements.
When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. And I think it speaks to that integrity.
Authenticity. Part of something bigger than themselves.
People can sense.
Right.
When a leader is about and truly cares.
That sense of community and collaboration.
About their well-being. And they're much more likely
to follow
and support somebody who embodies.
There's cogs.
In a machine.
Right. And another crucial aspect of creating
a positive work environment.
Powerful quote.
Is fostering a culture of inclusion.
From Proverbs, when the righteous thrive, the people rejoice.
They belong and their voices are heard.
When the wicked rule, the people groan.
Why is inclusion so important, especially
speaks in a work environment?
And that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And psychological safety. Which are essential for creativity.
When a leader is genuine,
innovation,
and truly cares about their well-being,
and risk-taking,
much more likely to follow and support someone.
When people feel like they can speak up,
who embodies those qualities
without fear of judgment or retribution, they're more likely to share their ideas.
Crucial aspect.
Challenge the status quo. Of creating a positive work environment
is
fostering
talents and perspective, a culture of inclusion.
So it's about recognizing that
where everyone feels like
diversity of thought and experience,
that their voices
leads to better outcomes, and that everyone has something valuable to offer.
Why?
Regardless of their
background, position,
personality, and personality, and so it's about creating space,
work environment
for those.
Because it creates a sense.
Different voices and perspectives.
And belonging.
To be heard.
And psychological safety.
That value.
Which are essential for creativity, innovation, and risk-taking.
And that takes intentional effort.
You feel like they can.
That's not something that.
That just happens automatically.
Doubters have to be mindful.
Fear of judgment or retribution. They're more likely.
Their own bias.
To share their ideas. Challenge the status quo.
And assumptions.
And contribute.
And actively seek out.
They're unique.
And include those.
Talents and perspectives.
Who might be different.
From them.
And that brings us to.
Recognizing that.
Key aspect.
Of leading when you're not in charge.
Of thought and experience.
And that is.
Leads to better outcomes.
Helping others reach their full potential. And that everyone.
It's about recognizing.
Has something valuable to offer.
The potential in others.
Regardless of.
And finding ways to support
the growth
all of it. And
even if you're not. It's about.
Direct supervisor.
So it's like that mentorship role.
Those different voices and perspectives.
Where you're sharing your knowledge and experience,
to be heard,
offering guidance and
value,
encouragement.
And that takes intentional effort.
And helping them
navigate something that just happens automatically.
The challenges they face, leaders have to.
He uses the example of
mindful
Jesus sending his disciples out to heal the sick and preach the gospel.
On biases.
He didn't just give them
assumption and actively seek out and include those.
He equipped them.
Who might be.
Trained them.
Different from them.
And provided them with.
And that brings us
the resources they needed.
To another key aspect of leading when you're not in charge, right?
It's about being a facilitator of growth and development.
That is right.
Empowering others to achieve their goals.
Others reach their...
Even if it means giving up...
full potential. Yeah. It's about recognizing the potential in others.
Sharing the spotlight.
And finding ways.
And it all comes back to that question.
Support.
Their
growth and development.
To make you better.
Even if you're not their direct supervisor.
That's such a good question.
So it's like that.
Because it shifts the focus
on self-interest
to the well-being.
Sharing your knowledge and experience.
And offering guidance.
And encouragement.
Of others.
And helping.
And the book brings it all back. And the ultimate
example.
The challenges they face.
Leadership.
Jesus.
He uses the example.
And it highlights
of Jesus
sending his disciples out.
His selflessness.
To heal the sick.
His willingness to relinquish.
Teach the gospel.
Power and authority.
He didn't just give them.
For the sake of others.
Vague instructions.
It's such a powerful reminder that true leadership is often countercultural.
Of them.
And provided
them
with the resources they needed
to succeed. Serving others, empowering those around you, and making a positive impact on the world, regardless of your position or title.
It's about being.
And I think that's a
facilitator of growth and development.
And for anybody who wants to make a difference.
Others to achieve.
Regardless of where they are in the organizational chart.
Their goals.
It's really inspiring.
Even if it means giving up control.
It's like that permission slip.
Or sharing the spotlight.
We all need sometimes.
And it all comes back.
A reminder that you don't have to wait for.
The promotion.
What can I do?
Or a fancy title. To start making a difference.
Better.
And he really emphasizes that.
That's such a good question.
Leadership isn't a destination, but
the focus from
self-interest
of continual growth,
learning, development of others,
and that's what's so exciting about it.
Brings it all back
to the ultimate,
more effective leader,
regardless of our current roles or titles.
And
so as we wrap up this deep dive into how to lead when you're not in charge,
humility. His selflessness.
Let's distill some key takeaway.
His willingness.
That you, our listeners,
can start implementing today.
Power and authority.
Give us those actionable steps.
For the sake of others.
To unlock our hidden leadership potential.
It's such a powerful reminder.
What's the first one?
That true leadership.
It all starts with.
Is often countercultural.
Self-reflection.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked.
It's not about
identity.
Seeking status or recognition. It's about serving others.
Those inner distortions, empowering those around you.
Right. And so how can somebody start
making a positive impact on the world?
Unpacking those things.
Regardless of your position or title.
Take some time.
And I think that's a really inspiring message for anybody who wants
strengths,
your weaknesses.
To make a difference. Regardless of where
your priority
or in the organizational chart.
Ask yourself what matters most to you.
Right.
What kind of leader do you want to be?
Yeah, it's really
inspiring.
I think journaling can be a really powerful tool.
That permission slip we all need sometimes.
Self-reflection.
Right.
Even just taking
that reminder.
A few minutes each day to write down your thoughts and feelings.
You don't have to wait.
Can help you gain clarity and identify those patterns.
A promotion or a fancy title
that might be holding you back
to start making a difference.
Once you have a solid understanding of your own identity,
emphasizes that.
Then you can
start about how you can use your influence to make a positive impact. So look for opportunities. Mentor others. Share your knowledge. Advocate for positive change.
Of continual growth.
And maybe even challenge the status quo when necessary be.